Hey everybody. When I say poetry, you say rocks. Poetry. Rock. Poetry. Rock. Poetry. Rock. When I say spoken, you say words. Spoken. Word. Spoken. Word. When I say to be, you say heard. To be. Heard. To be. Heard. To be. Heard. Do we have people from DC in the house? Make some noise. What about our Maryland folks? What about Virginia? All right, excellent. My name is Regie Cabico. I am a poet. I never thought I would be writing poetry. I thought I'd be doing musical theater, but I got tired of playing Chino from West Side Story. So I decided to go into something more lucrative like poetry. So this is called An Asian in the Sun. And it was supposed to be a play where an Asian cast does Raisin in the Sun and it gets controversial. So I never wrote the play, but I wrote the poem. I was named after a plumbing service in Baltimore. Reggie sounded like my father's name, Reynaldo, ray of light, ruler and counselor. When I was 3, I memorized Disney records, recited all the stories of wicked stepmothers and princesses. Mall shoppers threw money at me. When I was 5, I was lost in a grocery store, could not find my father, so I walked all the way home. To this day, I have an excellent sense of direction. When I was 11, I knew that I'd be an entertainer, so I recited the Christmas gospel with so much emotion, the nuns wept. By the time I was 16, I knew I had to go to New York City if I was going to be an actor, never knowing that I'd never be Asian enough for the industry. By the time I was 23, my family lost their home, evicted, their belongings strung outside the sidewalk, and I wrote my first poem. My family is shattered. So many pieces of scattered glass on an island that I've stepped on. 5 years ago, my awards and certificates were given to me in a cardboard box. I threw them all away when I moved to Mount Pleasant. See, I survived the American dream deferred. In the mother who thought Lady Liberty would be this beach she saw, watching Hollywood films. But today, I lose myself in poetry, in classrooms, on stages, trying to find my way home. Thank you. Thank you so much. It is so excited to be here. Shout out to Professor Rippey. Shout out for posting my, my uniform performance outfit. I feel this outfit gives me superpowers when I need the energy. So are there any poets in the house? Yes, make some noise if you're poets. Terrific. Any Filipino folks in the house? That's what it was like growing up in Clinton, Maryland. Does anyone have diabetes? Yes, I know, that's such a sexy question. So I was asked to write a curse, and I usually talk about infatuations, crushes, dates. And so I decided to write about diabetes. Being Filipino, we eat copious amounts of white rice and spam for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Nobody told me that that was going to be detrimental for my health. So this is called A Curse to Diabetes. Or I used to roller skate from Chinatown to Lincoln Center, but now I take a lift to Trader Joe's. And I actually should update this. I actually live on top of a Trader Joe, so I don't have to take a lift. I just wake up in the morning in my pajamas and slippers. I take an elevator. I crawl into Trader Joe like a random August Wilson character in a play, and I grab myself some coffee. And that's how an artist survives in the 21st century in gentrification. Dear diabetes, I see your reflection in the rear view mirror, your brown body buttered in bolognese. Your laugh slaps my skin like a light-headed siren call of pancakes. I know you intoxicate me into a full moon of cocktails and midnight carbs. You, diabetes, feed off the M&Ms I inhale on a grant deadline. You are the coconut brownie I chew on when I'm about to enter a temple of doom of school kids with poetry spells and rhymes to write. You know me as I know my colonizing nemesis of fried spam and longanisa I splurge myself with. You, diabetes, are the lover that wants to feed all of my hollow woofing suitors with spades of white rice. But I say no to you, diabetes. You will not take my limbs or eyes or tire me. I curse you, diabetes. You will not slow me from writing or drag me off stage from screwing my head with glucose. You will not pluck my pancreas like Prometheus, chained to your rock of sweetness. I will not accept you as my collaborator or as my mentee. My reflection is more than my piñata stomach and tiny hammock chin. I will release you by binging on raw apples while you watch CNN. I will be fierce flirting with slim sailors and bearded bears seductively, sipping lemon splash seltzers in bars. Be gone, diabetes. You will be gone from my blood. I will not forget the leche flan and lechon I grew up on, or my shame to be an artist without a Blue Cross and Blue Shield. I will take this curse to the river as I imagine my blood flowing onward and freely, and toss you in a blaze of sugar stomped like frosted flakes in my heels hitting treadmills. I see you, diabetes, and I am getting my reflection back. So, before I started to write poetry, so I came into poetry late. I started writing my first poems after I graduated from NYU. And after I graduated with my degree in theater, I decided I didn't want to act anymore. I was really tired of not being Asian enough for casting directors. They would stare at me and they would ask, do you know any jujitsu? And they would do this as if this were jujitsu. And I'd say no. And then they would say, well, where are you from? And I told them, well, it depends on what I'm auditioning for. Because if it's West Side Story, I'm Puerto Rican. If it's Miss Saigon, I'm whatever. But then I know that my look changes. And I can be anything, really, for casting directors. So it's like in the spring, I'd get the Chinese parts, in June, the South Asian parts. And by August, I'd be up for The Color Purple, the musical. So this is a poem that I first wrote, and it's for everyone who has to check a box. The government asks me to check one if I want money. I say, how could you ask me to be one race? I stand proudly before you, a fierce Filipino, who knows how to belt hard gospel songs played to African drums at a Catholic mass, and loving the music to suffering beats and lashes from men's eyes in the capital streets. Southeast DC with its sleepy crime, my mother nursed patients from 7 to 9, patients gray from the railroad riding past civil rights. I walked their tracks when I entertained them at the chapel and made their canes pillars of percussion to my heavy gospel. My comedy out loud, laughing about our shared stolen experiences of the South. Would it surprise you if I told you my blood was delivered from north, of Portuguese vessels who gave me spiritual stones and the turn in my eyes, my father's name when they conquered the Pacific Isles? My hair is black and thick as Negrito, growing abundant as Sampaguita, flowers defying civilization like Filipino pygmies that dance in the mountain. I could give you an epic about my ways of life or my look, and you want me to fill it in one square box? How could you tell me to fill Gilgamesh with all of its waters in one square box? From what shape or integer do you count existing identities, grant loans for the mind, or Crayola white census sheets? There's no one kind to fill for anyone. You tell me who I am, what gets the most money, and I'll sing that song like a one-man caravan. I know arias from Naples, Tunis and Accra, lullabies from welfare, food stamps, and nature. And you want me to sing one song? I have danced jigs with Jim Crow and shuffled my hips to the sonic guitar of Clapton and Hendrix, waltzed with dead lovers, skipped to bamboo sticks, ballet kabuki and mime katakali, ribaderchi the ramba and tapped in Pan Alley. And you want me to dance the Bhagavad Gita on a box too small for a Thumbelina thin diva? I'll check other. So both of my parents are from the Philippines. And I guess being an Asian poet, there's that obligatory mango poem. So, because you must, if you're Asian. So this is a mango poem for my mom. Mother fetches the fruit from the mango grove behind closed bamboo, rips its paper leather cover during midday recess before English class, describes their dance, peaches, plums, cantaloupes, before my first world eyes. When the sun blazed in the dust, she let the mellifluous fluids fall on her assignment books. Where the mangoes were first planted, mother and infant hid under gravel, swaddled by Lola, my grandmother, after my aunt and uncle were tied to the trunk of the first tender mango tree and stabbed by the Japanese, mother and daughter living off fallen mangoes, the pits planted in darkness for many years until I was born. We, a family of 5, left the Philippines for California, dodging US customs with the forbidden fruit, thinking, who'd deprive mother of her mangoes? Head down, my father waved passports in the still air and motioned us to proceed towards the terminal. My father faced a long line of weary travelers, waved passports in the still air, and motioned us to proceed towards the terminal. We walked around mother, forming a crucifix, where she was the center. On the plane, as we crossed time zones, Mom unwraps her ripe mangoes, the ones from the tree Lola had planted before she gave birth to my mother, the daughter that left home to be a nurse in the States, who'd marry a Filipino Navy man and have 3 children of her own. Mom eating the fruit, whose juices reign over deserts and cornfields. So my mom comes from the south of the Philippines. She's got a nice southern, lilting, kind of melodious Filipino accent. My dad is from the north in Pangasinan, who has the opposite. So I feel like, and my mom's a Virgo, my dad's a Pisces. So I feel like their energies and their polar oppositeness sort of has informed my introversion and my extroversion, which I'll talk about maybe a little bit later. But this poem is for my dad. It's called An Afternoon in Pangasinan with No Electricity. And there's a word in the poem called balut. And if you don't know what that is a purple egg. It's a chicken embryo. You might see it on Fear Factor or Survivor. And so this little balut egg is in the poem. And we'll talk a little bit about appropriation and colonialization in a moment, but There's such the proliferation of gourmet Filipino restaurants, and you're seeing ube ice cream in Trader Joe's, and these are Filipino products, and Trader Joe loves to market it, but they never say anything about where ube comes from, which is a purple, almost sweet potato. And so sometimes when I'm at a restaurant, I'll see sort of like some white frat guys eating a balut, but they'll treat it like a dare. And part of me is really repulsed, but part of me is turned on because they're really sexy and hot. And I'll say, yeah, you like that balut, don't you? Yeah, eat it. Eat my balut. Do that. In the yellow of butter, my mother colors my skin. In the yellow of sun, my skin becomes brown. In the yellow of yolk, my grandfather finds an egg. In the yellow of noon, we swallow the baby chick. Balot, they call it. Long life, he says, and discards the purple shell. So I'm going to shift gears for a little bit. I also write stories. So I've been lucky to have been on NPR. I've been at the Moth. And so I'm going to try to do the shortened version of me growing up. So the way that this set is going to work, and I figured it out, is that I'm going to do the Filipino identity stuff. I'm going to do some of the queer stuff and some of the new stuff, and then some of my work for children. So that's kind of a mix. And then I hope to hear from some of you. Are there any queer folks in the audience? All right, excellent, terrific. So we were the first Filipino family to move into Clinton, Maryland. It was so long ago we came in on Carabao. I called our entrance the little nipa hut on the prairie. As soon as we moved into our new home, my mom, who was a nurse, a hypochondriac, and very Catholic, started making the sign of the cross with Lysol. I have two sisters named Faith and Charity. My name is Regie. There is no hope in the family. While I was growing up, my mom would say, Regie, why do you want to sleep over the neighbor's house there? Psst, they will murder you. Why do you want to eat over there? You don't like our food? What is wrong with you? Psst, Regie, why don't you come back home now and practice your piano lessons? See, my mom gave me piano lessons because for Filipinos, it was like old-fashioned karaoke. And a big hit was Memory from Cats. Regie, come on now, play me the Cats. Your titas and all your relatives are here to hear me sing the Cats. Psst, Regie, Dad, where is this boy? Regie, stop playing that video game, psst, come. Okay, Mom, stop it, you're embarrassing me. Do 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 do. Midnight, not as someone is crying. I am beautiful, dear. My mom would sing that song off key while everybody applauded with a plate of pancit noodles on their lap, sipping Pepsi and hailing her a Filipina Barbara Streisand. Regie Cabico, you sound like Barbara Streisand. Oh, really? You know why it is? It's because every time I play Barbara Streisand's records, her voice is flying out of the speakers, and her voice is going into my ears and through my body, and my feet become like Barbara Streisand. In my hands become like a Barbara Streisand, and my eyes become like Barbara Streisand. And I could hear the wind of the beach of Boracay, Philippines, where the sand is like sugar and the water is blue. Memory, like the corner of my eye. That's the way we are. Afterwards, she wouldn't sing anything else. She'd just run back into the kitchen, laugh like a Smurf, and make more pancit noodles. At night, my mom would make me and my 2 younger sisters pray the rosary in front of a 4-foot Mary statue standing on a huge green serpent. I call the statue Our Lady of Loch Ness. Regie, what is the first sorrowful mystery? Well, Mom, they all range from sorrowful to boring. Could I please watch Dynasty now? Regie, if you watch Dynasty, you will die nasty. And the Blessed Mother will not put you on the honor roll. Look at Romeo del Rosario. He's on the honor roll all the time and going to be a full scholarship at St. Christopher's School of the Glorious Ascension and Immaculate Conception of the Sea and Stars. Why cannot you be too like him, anak? You are smart too. But Mom, I don't want to go to all-boy Catholic school. I want to go to performing arts school, the Duke Ellington School of the Arts. Yes, Mama, I saw the movie Fame, and I could see myself breakdancing on top of lunch tables and taxi cabs. Reggie, who's the Duke Ellington? And Washington, D.C. is so far and dangerous, somebody will poke your head there. Don't you know that I'm making sacrifices for you and sacrifices for you all the time? And you have to stay in all-boy Catholic school, see? The Blessed Mother gives me a sign, see? My hand is shaking with the gift of prophecy. Mom, that's arthritis. So, I never made it into the Duke Ellington School of the Arts. Instead, I went to Bishop McNamara High School, where for my senior year, I got the title role in the play Dracula. But with all the white makeup on, I looked like Yoko Ono. But I knew that I could be more than Yoko Ono, so I auditioned for television parts, and I got a call back to be a Vietnamese gang member on America's Most Wanted. And I told my mom, and she goes, Reggie, that is so good for you. I know that you will be the gang member. So she told everyone at church, and they were praying that I would get the gang member part. Let him be the gang member, let him be the gang member, let him be the gang member. It was a 9-day novena to be a gang member. And I finally got the part, and everyone came up to my mom and they said, Mrs. Cabico, your son was so great on America's Most Wanted. And she said, oh, well, yes, he was always very mean to me and his sisters. Never listens to me. So while I was in high school, I was doing theater. I would be doing late night shows, and I would be driving back into Clinton, Maryland. And as I drove to the house, through the window, I could see my mom pacing back and forth. Reggie, where were you? I thought you died in a car accident. Psst, come. My mom took me to the other side of the living room, and I saw that there was this huge light. I didn't know what was going on. Maybe it was a UFO, or maybe it was an apparition of the Blessed Virgin Mother. And as I got closer, I saw that it was a lighted glass stand with all of my awards. Mom, what's this? Reggie, this is your shrine. I know that you're going to be an actor, and if you're an actor, do not follow the soap operas, because it will lead you to sin. Reggie, why don't you be like Oprah? Reggie, you are my Hopra. I thought that because your dad is coming from a poor family, that he will work hard. But all the time, he likes to go out playing mahjong, drinking all the time. I know that you will help me take your 2 sisters to college. But Mom, I'm not the patron saint to your immigrant dreams, Mom. I'm not your Hopra. Thank you. So I started to write poems because I went through a quarter-life crisis. Wasn't getting acting parts. And then I was dating this older guy named Don. And he said, Reggie, you're not writing about us, are you? And I said, no, Don, I'm not. But I am writing a fiction piece about dating an older guy. The chapter's called Don. but I spell it with 2 N's. And he says, Reggie, you're crazy. I can't go out with you. And I said, I can't help it, Don. You bring out the writer in me. So if you have a crush on someone writing about them, it doesn't necessarily work all the time. This poem is called Arctic Lover. After I remove my socks and underwear, he says, I'm not feeling so hot. That poem took me 6 years to write. It was actually a short story, but then I workshopped it. So I'm afraid to workshop that anymore. The quarter-life crisis, I was living in New York City with 2 gay guys in a duplex, and it was a lot of pressure because I was the butch one. We lived in this apartment with this old gas stove, and you had to light it with a match. So my roommates would wake me up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they'd be like, Reggie, could you light the stove? So they would like speak in each of my ears, so it'd be like stereo sounds. And like 6 o'clock in the morning, Reggie, and I'm like, what? And so I'm like, you can't do this yourself? So I got the match, I'm the butch one, my roommates are behind me, and we look like Charlie's Angels. And I'm Lucy Liu because I'm the Asian one. So I throw the match onto the stove, and there was this huge explosion. There was these huge flames that came out of the stove. And let's just say that we're not going to get the security to pass it back. But in the process, my eyebrows were burned out. I had no eyebrows. Do you know how hard it is to pick up guys without eyebrows? Hi, how you doing? Glad to meet you. I don't have a headache. It's just that I'm the butch one and I've got no eyebrows. So I figured out what kind of guys are attracted to me. They're usually anthropologists because they're into my bone structure. So I'll be at a bar and there'll be this one guy who'll stare at me like I'm on the cover of National Geographic. And he'll whisper, where are you from? Oh, Baltimore? No, 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 no. You know what I mean. Where are you really from? Baltimore, Maryland? He buys me a glass of draft Bass and asks if I am Japanese. His remarks, you are the perfect combination of boy and man. No, I am not Japanese, but are you seeking the slim, smooth, smiling, authentically Thai-tasting geisha guy on the side, macho dancer looking for his lord and master, and butterfly wedding banquet joy luck club? I am not a Korean dragon lady running down Avenue A on heels with a teapot between my legs shouting, where's my tip? Give me my trophy. You want to play with me? You can. Just quit orientalizing because I ain't going to change my cottonette Calvins for you or my mother if I lose. I ain't going to fry you an emperor's meal or throw you Eurasia or butterfly you an opera. I'm through giving sex tours of UNICEF countries. Third world is for Angelina Jolie, Madonna, Sally Struthers. See, I am not a teriyaki toy, a rice queen's dream, a bowl of soy sauce to dip your meat in. Hit me and watch where the mahjong chips land. Lust me, I'll soon feel the back of your hands. Play with me then if you think the sweet that's left to the taste in my tongue is enough and not bitter. Love me for this, I forfeit the game, remove my makeup, and call you the winner. So there's no audio here, correct? Oh, okay. No, I think it's fine. I like being in the spotlight right here. So I'm going to shift and just read some newer work. And this is a great opportunity for me to do a retrospective. So okay. This series was inspired. Maybe about a year or two ago, I was dating a younger guy, a younger poet, and so anyway, this is from that series. So here we go. Disclosures. I'm trying. Oh, disclosures for anyone that I might be dating in the future or for a future boyfriend. By the way, I am single and available. I live in a top of Trader Joe's. I cook pad thai. I do shiatsu. I read astrological charts. And I live on top of a Trader Joe. You know, we could make out and have a snack later at Trader Joe. As long as it's before 9 o'clock, because that's when they close now. Disclosures. I'm trying to have sex with someone on a regular basis, whose name I know that I don't have to pay for, who resides in the continental United States and is conscious. Is that too much to ask? I tend to date guys who don't know we're dating. I will send you home-baked cookies, buttons, cards, and gay comic books. I will write haikus about you and have them tied to flocks of doves on ribbons, hoping that you receive them. If I'm suddenly quiet, it means I can't believe this is freaking happening. If I suddenly burst out belting a Sondheim show tune, it means I can't believe this is freaking happening. My self-esteem on stage is Judy Garland's. Off stage, I'm a can of Spam in an empty cupboard. I blame American colonialism or the Spanish Inquisition for all of my faults. Memory foam pillows and midnight cheesesteaks at Yum's have been poor substitutes when you're not around. Magical thinking. We all dig our own grave. All rivers are full of bonfires. Waterfall tequila in the mind. Our genesis is alpaca slime. My college drama auditions were audited by feather dusters. I get the Olympic medal for the girly eye roll. A single gem has throbbed in my chest, my whole life till it split, skipping wishing wells. I have been living with a Pyrex heart. Astrology says we get a second partner in life, sometimes a third. I want him close as flames. I want this lover falling for me like confetti from a holy book. This is called Before a Wedding, I Get My First Turkish Shave. Tatku places a hot towel over my lips and around my ears. A soft psst. Tatku lifts the towel and then another, each towel gradually hotter until an iron skillet bursts of steam on my cheekbones. The towel is your face pressed to mine. Tatku's fingers, hummingbirds lathering the shaving cream clouds, slow as a rocking of our clothed bodies on your bed. Circular as your tongue tip loops to my tip, tongue. A vertical lick to my ear, jowl smothered in juniper and spruce foam. My beard is just a week old, like our courtship. Tatku tells me the shave will hurt more because of the young stubble. So I nick and I bleed. No trickle do I see, but take in the cologne, misting, our necks exposed. This is how I define love. Sitting back in the chair, prepared for the blade. Okay. So Okay, I'm gonna do this. All right, I'll do these last two. I'm gonna do two more poems, and then we're gonna have a conversation a little bit, because I've been talking a lot. All right, so this love affair with this younger poet, he lives in Brooklyn, so it was like long distance, and we haven't seen each other in a while. So this poem is sort of that date, and you don't know what's going to happen. But we were both leaving out of the country. He was going to Japan, and I was going to Dublin. So this was the last thing, and we didn't know, I didn't know what was going to happen. So anyway, this is that poem. Sometimes I write poems to understand what just happened. Sometimes I write poems as permanent journal entries. Sometimes I write poems to connect. And sometimes I write poems to impress the guy that I'm dating. This is called Regardless, I'm Excited, or he's leaving for Japan because he doesn't have a boyfriend and it's summer and I'm going to Dublin the day before he flies, so we have less than 24 hours to figure it out. But the astrology says you cannot put labels or rules on this unconventional queer indie flick romance if that's what this is, or roll with it. 8 strips of bacon, tater tots, and beer. Unexpected selfie with Tessa of Dramatists Guild. Spider-Man, the night before the opening. Sporadic hand, arm, and thigh twister. He holds me when the prom scene approaches. He has a knack for sniffing out the comic book plot twist. The doors of my hotel twirl while his stomach churns. Poor honey, sad me, 2 kisses, adieu. Under his big umbrella on Cortelliu Road, bagels and nitrous coffee for breakfast. A lift ride through a Twilight Zone block of dollhouses. Poetry scrawled over his bed. My chapbooks are next to his bed, above the condom bucket. Read him white guy crushes, blushes, laughter. He lists his innocuous diseases for a poem. Misophonia, the food chewing smackety smack of it. The Catholic confession moment. His dating life is an associated writing program of gay poets. Damn, really good poets, actually. Massage and share, massage on memory foam, shut the door, slide the curtain rod, make out, remove shirt, green light, red light, pause. Green light, red light, Hamlet mental soliloquy, below the belt or not below the belt? Are we manic pixie boys? Can manic pixie boys be an identity or a disease? Am I too old to be a manic pixie dream boy? Can I just be Puck or Barbara Streisand in What's Up, Doc, or Robin Williams in Hook? Autograph each other's chapbooks, similar inscriptions, total synchronicity. I am proud of his new slam hoodie, a brand spanking Spider-Man outfit, walks me to Church Avenue, swipes my fare, kiss. On the plane to Dublin, land of his ancestors, the faint scent of him on my fingertips. The border dogs give me a wink. He smells of his name, Raven, Brave, Flame, Prince. And I'm going to close with this. This is called Google Nights. So I'm lucky to have a nice Samsung flat screen TV, and I finally learned how to Google Chrome because that's how old I am. So I've learned to Chromecast. He has poetry videos, so I like to watch his videos like on screen. So this is what it's called. I call this Google Nights. 1, without him, I lie in bed naked. 2, with his chapbooks, pens, and loose leaves. 3, I Google cast his poetry performances on my flat screen. I flip through 4, his Google Docs, and it's like playing the game show of his life. 5, I'll try dates with writers, please. We kiss under the light of truth. Who? What is A, Federico Garcia Lorca and Salvador Dali? B, Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor? C, 2 poking pool sticks? D, the result of pierogies, ice cream, and soda? 6, seeing him on the screen, I can sense memory, smell his cologne, which smells like Tom of Finland and freshly fucked flan. 7. I covet his green hoodie with holes, his signature slam attire that contains his adrenaline. 8. I can't decide which I like best. Him lying next to me like his open chapbooks. 9. Or the strapping chap that he is, lying next to me naked. Thank you. When I say poetry, you say rocks, poetry. 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 When I say spoken, you say words, spoken. Spoken. When I say to be, you say heard, to be. To be. To be. So, I'm really excited to hear from some of you. I have like a million more poems. I could keep going, but this is such a rare and great opportunity to hear what's going on. And yeah, so if there's anyone that has questions, please feel free to raise your hands and then just say it. And if there are multiple hands, then I will just be random. Yes, I see a hand. Hi, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Miriam.
Hi, Miriam.
Hi, Reggie. How old were you when you arrived to the United States?
Actually, I was born in Baltimore. So I know that the mango poem is a little confusing. I was born in Baltimore, and I've only been to the Philippines twice. When I was 3, and then when I was in my 20s, early 20s. So talking about leaving California, that was that trip. So I was born in Baltimore, and so I am the child of Filipino immigrants who spoke Tagalog, but never taught me Tagalog. They would speak to me in English, and they would speak another language to themselves. So that's sort of a disconnect. So I feel like, give me the language or not. So teach me the language. So and I think being in Clinton, Maryland, where it was 50% black and white, and it was our family, those stories of growing up was what I wanted to capture, of what it was like to be the child of immigrants, and also so for me that informs a lot of my work, and I would say now I see more younger Filipino students in all of the schools. When I'm not in colleges or universities, I do a lot of poetry in schools. So I'm in Arlington a lot, and in Maryland. So I'm happy to see younger poets who are Filipino, and it melts my heart, because I see younger, and I didn't even know that poetry was an option. And so I see younger poets who have grasped poetry and the way that poetry just works well on social media, and in slam poetry in particular. It's such a 3-minute soundbite. So that wasn't a long answer for a short question. Anyone else? Yes. Hi. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Debbie Robinson. So my question for you is, if you had to think of a poet from now, I mean, this century or maybe back, who would you say inspired you the most?
I think she died recently. Entezaki Shange wrote for Color Girls, who have considered suicide when the rainbow is enough. And so when I saw the play, I saw how poetry could work theatrically. So she informed the idea of gender and identity, and trying to tap that. So I owe her a huge credit. And actually, ironically, her last reading was at Busboys and Poets, and I was there and I recorded it. And then a few days later, she passed away. So that was a powerful moment.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, that is a good question. What's your name?
My name is Allison. Sorry.
Hi, Allison. Um, yeah. Oh my gosh, you're so angry, Reggie. Why are you so angry? And it's like, well, to me, people ask what poetry is, and even in elementary school. So I tell them poetry is intense feeling plus imagery. So you have to have the feeling, for me, the feeling plus the pictures, because there's poetry in movies, in dance, in painting. So to me, that's what I'm in touch with. So it's like, and when I teach workshops, and tomorrow I'm going to be able to do 2 workshops. So you're going to see how I get students to write poetry who don't want to write poetry. So I like to use improvisation. I like to use story. I like to use connection. And it's not that I want students to cry or to get angry. It's that I want them to write what they're feeling now at the moment. So it's like, I will tell you, you could write about this, but use what you're going through right now. What is the crisis? What are you feeling? What happens? What are you going through now? I won't censor you, this is for you, but put that down. So how do I create that safe space? So if I can be angry, if I can be sad, if I can be super gay, if I can be super Filipino, or whatever in order to pull the poem out or to connect, then I'm happy to do that. So like the anger, and I think like the early set, those are some of my older poems. I was much angrier, and I'm a little bit mellow in my old age. So I've learned to be mellow, but because of the political turmoil we're in, there's a new anger that I have. I thought my job was done writing about identity and queerness, but there's still something that is radically wrong, that no poet can really be silent in what we are going through. And so my poems have changed a little bit. And I wish I brought it, and maybe I'll bring it tomorrow, but I was teaching in Montgomery County in a really tough middle school. Well, all middle schools are tough, but this is sort of the bottom of the barrel school where no one wants these kids. And so we're doing poetry, and I asked the students to write a list of things that drive them crazy in the negative way, that annoy them. So I gave them my list, and I said, metro fare hike increases, changing my nephew's diaper, thinking there's a snow day, but then you have to go to school, when white actors play people of color in movies. And so then other students started to write. They were like, police brutality, racism. So they started to open up a little bit. And then the teacher said, you know what? I just think that you're inciting racism in this school, Reggie. And I'm like, what do you mean? And it's like, well, people of color play white people too. And I'm like, really? So I am fuming. I'm exhausted. I'm fuming. I'm working in a toxic environment, and I see this older white woman who hasn't, who's. And so anyway, I'm like, okay. She goes, well, look at Hamilton. So she's obviously not understanding the message of Hamilton, and that people of color playing white presidents, having a multicultural cast is progressive thinking. So she didn't get that. So I wrote a letter to her, a long letter. So sometimes poems, I am so non-confrontational. I have a Libra moon, but I put the confrontation in the words. So that's how I try to have what I should have said. So, yeah. So thank you for the question. Hi.
So,
What's your name?
Anaba.
I'm.
Right?
See, I'm sorry, my ears are bad.
Anaba.
Na Abba?
Anaba.
Anaba. Anaba, hello. Thank you for sitting up front.
Sure. So, have you ever written a poem that you thought this poem was going to be difficult for readers to break through by understanding it? And who are usually your audience?
So if I could repeat the question again, have I ever wrote a poem that's really difficult?
That you thought this poem was going to be difficult for readers to understand?
Okay, so I think that difficult means a lot. So are you talking about that it's so dense that they're not going to understand what the message is?
Yeah, the many poems you read, like Mangos, for instance, was easy to understand by me.
Mm-hmm.
But some of them, I couldn't make head and tail about them.
Yeah, sometimes if the message is not, so when I'm performing, I try to find poems that are accessible. It really depends on the audience. So I was trying to sort of find a range. I write in experimental ways sometimes, but sometimes I neglect them and I just leave them to be read. So sometimes I'll just find things that have some theatrical charge, that give me something to perform. But for the most part, most of my poems are accessible. I just can't, I'm just trying to think if I've done something that has been kind of dense. I think coming from slam poetry, you have to be clear on what the message is. So while you have 3 minutes to perform, sometimes you'll hear a poet and like, wow, their performance is so great, and you don't know what the poem was about. So I try to, like, when I'm coaching slam poets, I'm like, well, what's the message here? Because people understand like what a good story is because they understand stories. But when it comes to poetry, it's easy to sort of put clouds of mystery that are accepted. So, but yeah, so thank you. Yes, there was a hand there. What is your name? Marlon, hi. Okay. I think there are two questions and they're kind of related. Could you say that first part again? Um, while I was acting, I had to find good monologues, and I had to read plays, and I had to find what I could connect to, and there were so many things that were not there. So that's when I started to write. Um, the exercise of acting is to dive into the scene and to sort of relive the experience so you can be there. And you can, and then you could write on what has happened. So I think as a performer, acting comes naturally because you have to use your voice. You learn how to understand the text. So that's how, but I would be more specific. To me, I was doing musical theater. So when you look at a show tune, say that, Let It Go from Frozen. So to me, that's a slam poem. So a slam poem is like a Broadway showstopper, but I don't have to sing. So it's my 3-minute big moment. So that's how I sort of see some of the poems as like a big song show tune. So that's how theater and musical theater sort of has informed some of my poetry. And sometimes when I perform the poem, I pretend to be in another place, or I put myself back in to what it was that I was experiencing. The poem that I did earlier, he buys me a glass of draft Bass and asks if I am Japanese. That is an old poem, and I still have to find a way that's relevant for me to make that poem work. So it's not that I use acting, but I center myself like an actor to figure out how to perform that. I have performed the same poems over and over. I have hit poems that people want me to perform. So I have to try to give it the best performance that I can possibly give. The hardest thing about performing is not memorizing the poem or even writing the poem. The hardest thing is trying to figure out who you are and how I can connect to you. How far can I push the danger in myself? How far can I edge myself without losing you all? And how can I keep you engaged? So that's the hard part, reading the audience in the same way that a teacher or professor has to figure out if the students are getting it or if we have to change course. So I think it's the same kind of energy. There's one question here and one question there. And let me just see where we are. Oh man, it's really moving. Oh my gosh. All right. So how about, okay, what's your name? Herson. Hi, welcome.
Thank you. My question is, I don't know how to exactly word it, but what difference do you hope or expect to make by writing, your poems? Like, what impact do you want your poetry to have for others?
I just want people, because I grew up isolated, um, I am, I am socially stunted, if you would say. Like, I didn't have a lot of friends growing up, and so the poems are to make friends and to make connections. Um, and I want people to feel what I feel, being, someone who's queer and Filipino and now in middle age. And how do I connect? So to me, that's what I hope will happen. And it gives me permission to be up on stage and to perform. Nobody was going to hire me to act, but I know that I can perform, but that's not going to stop me. So if you're not going to cast me, then I'm going to write my own show, I'm going to write my own scripts, and I'm going to perform. So I will give myself the power to perform, and I hope that people will laugh, connect, or cry, or what have you. So I hope that that's genuine. And I realize I want everyone to love my poems. And I know that that's not possible, but at least I like them, and who knows? I mean, some of them, some of them don't age well, and what can you do? And I hope that when people read, thank you so much. I hope when people read them, they will pass it on. I think, we can only hope that we write art so that way we won't be forgotten and people can sort of remember where we were and what was going on. So sort of like Rita Dove said it to report onto the world. So I'm just trying to see and report on what I'm feeling and what I'm seeing. Thank you. Hi again.
My name is Ikram.
Ikram?
Ikram.
Ikram. Hi, Ikram.
Very nice to meet you. My question is not as deep, or I just kind of wanted to ask. You said that you were on the mock podcast. Well, it's a podcast, as I hear it. But did you ever, when you were invited to do that, did you ever? Was it like a really cool experience? I've listened to it for such a long time, and I've always wondered how that whole experience was. And have you ever been in
Okay, so the Moth experience was really, really cool. I got to perform live at Shakespeare Theater in DC. There's a huge theater, and then they recorded that, and so it was a live recording with a live audience. So that was really, really terrific. Um, I'm just trying to think of my worst performance ever. See, I don't suck ever. Um, well, look, there are times where the joke doesn't land, or I just can't remember the last bad thing. Either I blocked it out for trauma, Pete, but I'm sorry, I'm just trying to like, I know that there's some okay performances. Oh yeah, okay, here's one. So for the DC Commission for the Arts, there's the individual fellowships. So they allow you to perform 5 minutes of your poetry before a panel. No pressure there. There's a lot of money at stake. They can't talk to you, and it looks like the end of the movie Flashdance, where they're like staring at you. And here's the thing, it's easier to perform in a large group than it is with 5 people who are staring at you. So there was this one guy who was up front, and he was just like scowling at me, crossing his hands. And it was just not good. It was just, it was okay. But it wasn't good. I don't think I hit what I should have hit. And then I went overtime. Then they're flashing card, 1 minute left, 2 minutes and out. And so that was not good. It's not good. Not good. But I still got money anyway. So I'm happy. It hasn't arrived yet, but I hope it will come. Like before the end of the year, so I could pay my Amex bill. If not, I'll just keep going to Trader Joe's and drink more coffee. So I'm going to do a poem, and then I hope to see you tomorrow. What time are the sessions?
11 to 12:15 in the Reich boardroom right next to the library. He's going to lead a workshop. And then is Dr. Norton here? Eric, is yours just your class or is it open to other people?
It's open, yeah.
It's open. So yours is here at Ballston, right?
The second one.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
What room is it?
4064.
4064, and that one's
That would
1:15 to 2:30?
Yeah, but we might start at like 1:30. But yeah, around that.
So we have one on main campus, and these are more workshops, right? So it's not, this is our sort of performance, but Reggie's going to lead a workshop on main campus, 11 to 12:15, and then one here at Ballston around 1:15.
Yes.
Talk to me if you want to come. Just let me know, and we'll make sure you're going to the right place.
So I had a reading at Barnes & Noble's. The theme was April, Cruelest and Month. And it was a lineup with some incredible writers, Sapphire, Timothy Liu. It was just a lot of poets. And it gets you nervous. It's like, what am I going to write with the theme April, Cruelest and Month? And I was like stressing out, trying to figure out what to do. And so at that moment, I looked in the paper and Nina Simone died. And so then it all clicked. So, and this was in April. So I'm going to close with this piece. It's called I Got It Bad for Nina Simone. And if you don't know who Nina Simone is, she's a pianist, a vocalist, an activist. She has a song for every emotion that you might feel. So if you're washing the dishes or cleaning up, you could play her, and she is such comfort. So I Got It Bad for Nina Simone. Nina, look at the sky. April clouds hang a fat, sappy syrup on my saddest day. Played you Monday night, my day unbearable as a wool coat in April. Came back to find my bed empty as a tire swing in winter. Nina, in my saddest hour you have crooned me over a cruel block of loneliness, when unrequited love is an Italian bartender who flirts with you from the torso and offers you more lies than a tiramisu. Yes, Nina, Monday night I was so terribly sad, sadder than a parlor of long veils, carrying groceries up too many flights of stairs. And the sound of your voice, so full and broad-shouldered, made the day with all its drama into bangles and diamonds. Nina, you made me a culinary priestess. You placed a spell on me, singing above the sizzling oil as I pranced like a tiger among the tambourines and tin cans. The raindrops applauded, and the single wine glass wept because I found Nina, Nubian Mona Lisa, woman painted with Egyptian mascara. You use silence the way a woman's figure made Jesus bend at the knees, bend, ache, break to the will of your beautifully blessed contralto, crackling bittersweet as you held a phrase long enough for green finches to fly out the winter gloom. Nina, the storyteller, Nina, a river lonely as hell, Nina, tossed like an ark full of sparrows. You can honky-tonk the bones off Kali and steal the lightning from her toes. Listen, Nina, I think it's going to rain again. Human kindness is overflowing, flowing harder, even in the cruelest times. Thank you so much. Thank you. You've been a spectacular audience. Thank you so, so much.